I've seen the results of our indifference. So, if you want me to pass my evening defending the right of Western countries to use their muscle to free Arabs from systematic murder, then believe me, I am up for it.
I'm sure you are.
I take it you were against?
Passionately.
From the beginning?
Let's just say I knew who the surgeon was going to be, so I had a fair idea what the operation would look like.
This is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. Our guest is a marvelous actor who can now be seen on Broadway in The Vertical Hour and on screen in Notes on a Scandal. Two very interesting dramas, both concerning the English intelligentsia and their very convoluted sexual lives. So here to introduce him is my co-host, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
We'll get to the sex topic in a minute there, Bill Nighy. But I first came across Bill Nighy in a wonderful play in London about 5 or 6 years ago called Blue Orange, and he gave a terrific, exciting performance. He is equally as exciting on Broadway now in The Vertical Hour. You know him from the movie Love, Actually, and Susan said Notes on a Scandal, and you might not recognize him without his tentacles, but he's also, what's the squid character?
I am the squid. In Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean, that's right. Bill Nighy, welcome to Theater Talk.
Thank you.
All right, in The Vertical Hour, it's a play about a young woman, foreign correspondent, who has taken some time off from the hotspots of the world. And she's trying to make some sense of her life, and she goes to visit you, an older doctor, more older-ish doctor, a little more cynical than this young American idealistic woman. Is that a fair assessment of the character that you're playing?
I don't know whether cynical is quite the word for it. They certainly have a differing view of the current situation in the world. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say at a stretch that there is a degree of cynicism, but I don't know that that's the defining characteristic. He is disappointed. He's also been through a traumatic experience in his life, mm-hmm. and I don't know that. I think the world is divided between people who've been through trauma and people who haven't, and those who have been oddly and strangely sometimes improved by it. It's kind of, it's a crash course in perspective, and that's the case with Oliver. I don't know that he's come to terms with it yet, and this meeting with this extraordinary and very glamorous and very incredibly clever, active woman is cathartic for him, and it enables him to come to terms with things that have happened in his life.
Because at that point in his life, before she comes into it, you get a sense that he has withdrawn from the world to some extent. Yeah. He's living in his very nice country house, his nice picnic table, drinking wine, but not engaged anymore.
No, he's on the run.
Yeah.
Bad things happened, which I won't tell you because it would spoil the end.
Sure.
But seriously bad things have happened to him, which were kind of what you might call, and what are described as, accidental, but he sees, obviously, and has interpreted as a karmic result of his previous life, his previous behavior. It's seen, I think, as a kind of, as a comeuppance. Mm-hmm. And he's suffering, or he's atoning on a hillside in Shropshire. Mm-hmm. And he's rarely visited. And he just tries to keep life very simple, as people do who've been who've led complicated and reckless lives and have come a cropper. Mm-hmm. And he now tries to keep it as simple as possible, and he tries to be as honourable as possible as a doctor, and keep out of the way. As he says, you know, I moved to where I wouldn't do harm.
Mm-hmm. What does he... They disagree politically about the war. That's the backdrop of the play. But what does he see in her? What is he attracted to in her that begins to alter him?
I think he sees in her that she has a rare thing, which is genuine access to her compassionate sensibility, which is thin on the ground lately. Mm-hmm. I think he sees somebody who is incredibly intelligent and bright, and who has risen to what I think David Hare once described as the challenge of growing older, which is to remain interested. It's very difficult, and she at one point says that people in the West now are mostly concerned with living for as long and as comfortably as possible, and not in heroic or outstanding behavior. And he sees somebody who's still active and still out there, and of course, incredibly glamorous, as played by Julianne Moore, you know, who's enchantingly...
He likes the red hair.
Well, she's enchantingly beautiful and incredibly alive and fresh and engaged in a way that he, as you say, isn't currently. So I think it's all a recipe for, you know, he's enchanted by her.
But may I interject?
Yes, I want the sexual stuff from you, Susan.
That she is also the girlfriend of his son.
Yes.
Minor detail.
Okay.
And so yeah. Well, I mean, but in your, I mean, because I have to say, people, the observer comes at this play from different perspectives, and when we got into the level of that you started to hit on your son's girlfriend, there was a certain dastardly quality, although albeit you were charming and lovable, but dastardly. Do you ever let that enter your mind that you're being I can't say a son of a bleep on
a sleazeball?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't think of it in those terms, surprisingly enough. But yeah, no, it does. It drifts across my mind. I don't know that it's not a, you know, I don't know how deep a hit is made on her. But yeah, no, it's.
Well, he says, "Come to the yard, I'll be there."
Well, you know, there's a couple of ways of interpreting that. But I know what you mean. I think it's just old habits die hard. I don't think he's really intending ever to, you know, to steal his son's girlfriend, but I think he finds her irresistible, and in the short period that she's going to be there, he wants as much of her company as possible. I don't know if things worked out. Again, I don't want to tell the end of the play,
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there is. I mean, he has. I think old habits die hard.
But your son thinks that you're diabolical and trying to ruin his relationship.
He
Is there any truth to that?
Well, you know, my son. What does he know? I mean, he
ineffectual young
exactly.
man.
No. I mean, I don't know that there's any truth in it, but he could be forgiven for making that mistake. That's my view. And I'm sticking to it.
And you're sticking to it. Your performance has been praised not only for the intelligence that you bring to the character, but also your marvelous physicality on the stage. And that's what I remember so much from Blue Orange too, just the way you sort of unfold your arms and shift your weight around. I mean, are you conscious of doing that, or is this just the tics of Bill Nighy, or are these the actors plotting out his character's movements?
It's a very difficult question to answer. Originally, it was sort of the result of what happened when I was under pressure. In other words, opening a play. And I was not quite as aware of it as a young man, although I have always had a sense of it, and it is always to a purpose. It is, and I know that I'm trying not to laugh because there will be people out there who won't believe me, but it's, and I used to have a joke with the boys in Blue Orange that, you know, that it was all part of my relentless search for theatrical truth, and not just me trawling for cheap gags. But it's, but no, it truly is it's a sort of, I don't quite understand what happens. I don't intend anything until it happens. When it happens, it is in the spirit of trying to tell the story, and I do, with facial things and with physical things, try and indicate what's happening to me at the time, and also try and complement what other people are doing. I try and receive, I mean, it's a nutty thing to do. I don't know why I do it, and I don't know where it came from, but I do try and receive information physically. I try and demonstrate certain things that are happening as a result either of what somebody's saying to me, or what I'm saying to them, or what's happening to me. And I do, and it is a way of trying to describe what's happening internally.
But you said that,
I think that's true.
At first, though, began nervousness as an actor before.
Well, I'll tell you the big moment. I tell you, there was a big moment when I did a big sort of, and it may have, you know, it took me till I was about, I don't know, 45 or something. It probably happens earlier for most people, but I am a bit of a late developer. But I remember standing in the wings to go on to play Trigorin in The Seagull, with notably with Dame Judi Dench playing Arkadina in a production at the National Theatre some years ago. And I remember thinking that I was perfectly relaxed, or not perfectly relaxed, but I was sort of relaxed in the wings, and that there was a line between the wings and what would then become the stage, after which apparently I had traditionally, what happened was that I walked on and started behaving very well, started standing very properly, and speaking, you know, rather differently. And I thought it was time to perhaps investigate what happens if you don't do that. So I tried not to edit anything, and I try not to have the crossing that line, the being on stage bit, inform the way I am, unless there's something that's required, unless it's a period piece where you are required to stand perhaps in a different way because of the clothing or because you have some particular thing that the character or the script requires. Other than that, which is not the case with Trigorin, I'm basically, it's a straight role, as it were. Then why should I suddenly start sort of being on my best behaviour? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it helping? So I tried to investigate that, so that if you are, and I naturally am in a certain, I have a certain relationship with my body in the same way that everybody does. So I tried to kind of have it be part of everything rather than sort of editing it.
But how do you keep yourself in that place of no tension, of not, that you cross the line and...
I can't do no tension. I mean, opening this play, for instance, I mean, because it's the most recent, and therefore my memory of the anxiety is fresh. It was murder. It's terrible. It is truly a traumatic experience opening a play. It is for me. I don't know what it's like for other people, but I guess it's pretty much the same. But therefore, you have to operate whilst that's going on. You know what I mean? You have to be able to go to work, even though your head, in my case, is attacking you and telling you that the last thing you said was terrible, it was humiliating, you just did it wrong. Look at Julianne, she's looking at it, she's disappointed. Young Andrew, look at him, he's thinking he's the senior member of the cast, he's supposed to know what he's doing. I'm now exposed, I'm now revealed as someone who doesn't know what they're doing. I've let everybody down, I've let David down, Sam, I expect he's out there thinking, what is he doing? All this stuff going on. Meanwhile, I have to go to work. So I've got used to having this kind of radio tuned to this negative channel that attacks me while I go to work. I mean, I don't know if it's the same for other people. I hope it isn't. I'm sure it is. I mean, I know there are notable performers who are, household names, who I could tell you, who are routinely nauseous before they go on stage, and I know have a similar reaction to the whole thing as I do. So I'm not alone in this. But it is extreme when you're opening. Then once you're open, and hopefully if things have gone well, then it eases up, and you're able.
It's a technique that keeps.
But you still have to work. Therefore, there are certain things that are born of adrenaline, which you then keep in the performance because you figure they worked. I mean, that's the same for everybody. But as for the whole, I mean, I didn't know about the physicality of things, not to the point that I do now, until other people like yourself referred to it. So then I had to kind of account for it, and I'm still working on my account. But I do, but it is. I am aware that I do certain things, and I know it's eccentric, but I do certain things. And it is in the name, whatever they say. It's in the name of telling the story and trying to demonstrate what's happening.
The truth of the moment.
Do you ever run the risk of doing too much because people have said, "Oh, that's..."
Yeah, when the Bill Nighy tick.
Well, it's now referred to, and that kind of has worry. That does concern me to a certain degree. And there are performances where I try to keep it simple. And I eliminate certain things because I think either they have been seen before, or they're not serving the purpose that they originally might have done. I mean, I remember when I first worked with David on stage on A Map of the World with David Hare, who wrote A Map of the World at the National Theatre and directed it, and I was I am not unaware, but I don't make big choices about what I do with. I also was someone, like a lot of people, who, when in my early career, which thank God no one remembers, and most people are dead now, so this is a good thing. I spent many years standing on stages having those dreadful conversations with myself about what to do with my left hand, not being able to move, putting my legs in a certain arrangement, and then screaming at myself, "Why did you do that? Why didn't you, move your left leg? I can't move my left leg. Well, why are you standing like that? Nobody stands like that." All those kind of conversations, which were torturous, and I shouldn't. I don't know how I even got through all that stuff, because I don't think temperamentally suited to being an actor at all. I was deeply self-conscious, and I spent years being sort of ashamed on stage. So this is also born of an attempt, I think, originally, although I can't really remember, but I think originally to try and bust out of that. Do you know what I mean? It was just I couldn't be that uncomfortable any longer, that unhappy doing my job. So it was a way of freeing myself up.
I would love to have been in that cast of The Seagull the night you decided to dance around past the line.
Well,
the other actors are like, whoa, what's going on here?
Well, I didn't exactly dance, but I didn't sort of suddenly become somebody who was, because they were, you know, I'm not supposed to know about the audience, you know, so I'm not supposed to be on any particularly, you know, good behavior or anything, or I'm not, you know, physically I'm not supposed to sort of, you know, be aware of that. So I wanted to, it's only just stuff to, you know, indicate, you know, that what's happening has never happened before.
Yeah.
What you're saying has just occurred to you, and it's just a way of trying to dupe the audience into thinking that you're making this up, and that these events are happening. Are happening for the
pretty
first,
effective, I got to tell you.
time. I mean, that's, you know, like anybody acting.
If you say you were so self-conscious when you were younger and not temperamentally suited to be an actor, why did you become one?
I know. Well, I don't really know. I became an actor because I didn't want to do the other things that were on offer, like go to work. I mean, you know, I mean, in terms of, you know, the prospects for me were, I mean, I don't know what they would have been, but they didn't look too attractive, in as much as it meant that you had to get up quite early every day and go to the same place for the rest of your life. You know, that didn't seem to me like anything I could be excited about. So it was an alternative to that. I left school very young. I didn't have any qualifications. I wasn't, you know, I mean, I didn't...
Where are you from?
I come from a small town in England called Caterham, which is south of London, which was a small community on the edge of town. And I, you know, and I had a pretty average upbringing. And I met a girl. Hey. And then I met a girl, and she suggested that I go to drama school, and if she'd have said astronaut, I'd have probably tried that too. I mean, my world became about
pursuing the girl,
aiming to please her. So it really wouldn't have mattered. She was going to drama school, so she said, "Why don't you go to drama school?" And which, you know, I didn't even know they existed really. And she wrote the letter, and eventually I got in.
Was this RADA?
No. This was then called the Guildford. I say it in that way so that you don't mistake it for Guildhall. The Guildford School of Dance and Drama. We used to call it the Guildford School of Prance and Murmur, for a laugh. And it was a school down in Surrey, and it was the Summer of Love. I remember.
The Summer of Love.
It was It was then dubbed by I think the Daily Mirror as the Summer of Love, and I just wish that somebody...
That summer's a good summer to be at the drama school, I would think.
Well, nobody told me about it at the time. I was unaware that it was the Summer of Love. I wish somebody had told me.
I don't get the sense that in your early days, though, that you were this sort of wildly ambitious actor. And you had a long period of time where you were just kind of scraping by. I remember running into you at a bar. I said I saw you on Riley, Ace of Spies, and you said, "Oh, I did that when I was completely broke." I think that was.
Well, no, I mean, like I have had a pretty familiar progress as an English actor, in as much as you spend a lot of time without much money because you're in the theatre in England, and you don't make any money in the theatre in England. But that was fine. I had a great time. And I used to go up and down the country, and I went to Liverpool, and I was there for 3 years with Julie Walters and Pete Postlethwaite and Willie Russell and Alan Bleasdale being the resident writers, and Jonathan Pryce was the director at the time. And, you know, these were great. It was a great company, and we did great stuff. And I had a ball. You know, you didn't make any money or anything. And then you went to London, and then I tried to get on TV. But everything was already a result. You know, for me, the celebrations could already begin. Because, you know, to get any kind of money and to be involved in, you know, in the writing and the performing of, although I had a very complicated relationship with it because it terrified me, and it took me a long time to be able to think of myself as properly as an actor. But I was employed and I made some money. But I scuffled and scraped, and in the same way as everyone I know did. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's just how it is, unless something remarkable happens, like I don't know, like you're going to become a film star or something. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen.
Which you've become.
Now,
well,
something remarkable has happened to you.
Well, no, I mean, I've had the most. I've been as lucky as anyone I can think of, and things in recent years, things have changed dramatically. You know
when did the big change come?
Yeah, when does that sort of flip over and suddenly realize, whoa, this can be lucrative, and I've been bumped up to the next level?
Well, there are significant shifts. You know, I mean, David Hare was the first person to give me a leading role in the theatre, in a map of the
Map of
world,
the World, yeah.
at the National Theatre, which was a big thing for me. It was a huge thing. David Hare was also the first person who gave me a lead on television in England, so which meant that there was a precedent for that. So therefore you could play leading roles on the television, which was important because that you could make some money. And if you have a family and you've got a mortgage, this is, you can't live in the theatre. You can, but it's tough. So you need something on TV, baby. And then I made then another notable shift was I did Brian Gibson gave me a job in a movie called Still Crazy, which was another rock and roll comedy written by Ian LaFrenne and Dick Clements, which didn't do any business but was very well received and now is a kind of cult around the world. And people often sneak up to me and say, "You're Ray Sims of Strange Fruit." We had a band in it called Strange Fruit. Tim Spall was on drums, Stephen Ray was on keyboards, Jimmy Nail on guitar, and Bruce Robinson on guitar, actually, the man who wrote With Nail and I. Anyway, so that was, and we were all, it was very well thought of, although it wasn't a very successful movie, but it meant, there again, there's a precedent. I played a principal role in a movie, so now I could play a principal role in the movie. So that was a big deal. And then, most notably, of recent years, Richard Curtis gave me another job as an ancient, exhausted rock and roller in Love Actually, and that made all the difference.
Well, you got a Golden Globe.
I got a Golden Globe, and I got a couple of prizes in England.
And now it's all culminated in Squid.
And now I am Davy Jones. I am the Squid in Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3, which we've just finished.
David Hare speaks very, very highly of you, of course, and feels that you're just one of a handful of actors who are his characters in some ways. There's a play of his that I love, and he would love you to do, but you won't do, My Zinc Bed, which is a great David Hare play. It's about a recovering alcoholic who gets involved with a younger woman. Why won't you do that play?
No, it's not a question of I've never been asked to do that play.
Really? Yeah.
I was asked, David, when it was first produced in England, did send it to me. I was then unable to do that play because I was about to start. I was unavailable due to Blue Orange. I was doing Blue Orange in the West End, so I was never going to be available for it. So the question never came up. And since then, it's never been produced since, and I've never been,
because it's a play I'd love to see on Broadway, and you would just be perfect for the older guy in the play.
Yeah. Well, as he describes, I think, but and as in Love Actually, you do have a way of conveying the burnout sensibility of our generation. Dissipated. Why do you do that so well?
Well, I can do the aging bit very well. And I have my face, apparently, I keep being referred to. I remember I was in the street and two women were behind me and they were kind of laughing, and I looked round and they said, "Oh, we're sorry, we're laughing." I said, "No, please, don't worry." And they said, they were saying something about, they said something about something I'd done, and then they said, "We like that raddled look." And raddled has become, I don't even know quite, I know what raddle means, it means this. But, so I figure I've got the look. I have the raddles, whatever they mean, whatever that means. It just means, I don't know, I mean, mostly it's all in terms of its technical problems, in terms of playing old rock and roll, in terms of all of it. And also, you have great writing.
And that Love Actually character where you were just completely, hungover or strung out. And
somebody said nobody does tired like Bill Nighy. And I thought, well, that was me at my most sort of energized. It's like when people ring me on the phone, honestly, at least, I promise you, I won't even have to exaggerate, at least 4 times a week, someone will ring me on the phone and say, "Oh my God, I've woken you." And you go, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I've just finished work. Because there's something when I answer the phone, everyone says, "Oh no, I'm so sorry, you were sleeping." I said, "No, I was actually, I'm dressed, I'm in the kitchen, I'm having a cup of coffee." There is, and again, sometimes when I'm acting, somebody said to me, "It's all right for you, you're laid back." You think, well, try it for size. You try being this laid back. If they knew what was going on in my mind. It's not what I call laid back, but there is something about me that suggests that kind of thing. And often when I'm at my most energized, I think I'm really giving it too much, probably. You know what I mean? I think I'm giving it, too much sort of everything. people will describe it as, you know, mellow or laid back or whatever, or exhausted or tired or whatever. And I just got used to it. I don't mind.
Clearly, you have no idea what you're doing. You know?
I don't really know. I mean, I know certain things. I know how to do certain things, but I don't always recognize. I don't always recognize what I intended in how people receive it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not confused about, you know, for instance, playing in Love Actually, playing an old rocker. I kind of, you know, it was kind of what I was going for.
Right.
But there are certain areas which remain mysterious to me.
Well, however your odd process works, it certainly comes together on stage. Terrific performance by Bill Nighy in The Vertical Hour with
and
Julianne Moore.
in Notes on a Scandal. That
Yes, Notes on a
movie,
Scandal,
which is
the
now
movie
out.
out with Judi Dench. So you're keeping good company these days.
I'm in very, very good company.
Great having you on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much.
An appeal to patriotism is a contradiction in terms, especially when made by politicians. You can no more appeal to patriotism than you can appeal to love. You may feel it, but you can't demand it. Wilfred